I think I'll be okay. No bullet or bombs killed me yet, so I'm good to go. All right, so to start, I'm going to point out that I'm extremely grateful for all of you taking the time to come on out here and listen. I'm going to address a number of things. I'm going to point out some stuff. I'm going to do my very best to articulate and point out the opposite side of the coin and why they want to take it. The caveat to that is I only know what they've told me. So there's certainly more answers, and I continue to hear that every day since I let everybody know. Well, why this, why that, what are all the things? So I don't exactly have all of those answers, but what I do have is the full scope and the full picture of the things that I believe were not considered in this proposal. So, so again, first off, thank you all. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to be here as your sheriff, and I'm very grateful to represent you and your voice. So to start, hello, I'm Sheriff Garcia. Thank you all for coming.
Sheriff Garcia.
So we've got a huge team, and I'm going to go around the floor and introduce them all. I will point out that this is a topic that hits home, and I've worked very hard for 2 years to create a team, of which that is my skill set. Being a leader and creating a team. It took me 22 years to learn how to do that, and it's been applied here for the last 2 years for all of you. So with that said, right now, this is Mike Ray, and he's the undersheriff of Pacific County. He's born and raised here. He's born and raised here, and he's been a huge help for me of understanding, one, law enforcement, two, this community more than what I knew, three, the history of this office and this community, and four, he's been a huge, what would you say, a balance. I know, oh, thank you guys for coming. Hey. Good to see you. Thanks, brother. A huge balance. I know it doesn't look like if we sat on a teeter we would balance, but it has been a huge balance for the service to you. So next, this is the infamous Commander Parker. Ooh. And, so he, in fact, has the oversight on the jail. He oversees it. He runs the jail. In addition to that, he has stood up a search and rescue program within this county, of which we are not there yet, but is light years ahead from where we started. That hasn't existed for a very long time. Second to that, he oversees the drug task force. After that, he also oversees our reserve program. The reserve program was on life support when I took the office and is going but still not where it needs to be. And also the reserves is how we've addressed our search and rescue program. The individuals that are part of the reserve program come to us with skill sets that allow us to apply search and rescue. So that is a huge blessing to the community and really ace up our sleeve. So next we have Deputy Erica Hazen, and I'm just going down the line. Thanks, brother. Thank you guys for coming. She is a reserve deputy and a part of the search and rescue team. In addition to that, she is a part of the surf rescue and the Swiftwater. What's the other one?
Cliff rescue.
Yeah, cliff rescue. And so those skill sets are applied into our search and rescue program. In addition to that, she has a medical background, and in the future on the slate will create our tactical medic program to be able to provide services to us should the need arise. Next, now we have Chief Criminal Deputy Randy Weigard. Another community beloved and born and raised here, deep ties to the community, and a very honorable, ethical, and moral man with a lot of experience within this sheriff's office. When I appointed him, he was a sergeant, and he was the South County sergeant and essentially kind of ran the show all down here. So in addition to the undersheriff, he's my other ace in the hole. Right here we have Deputy Dylan Turner. So he's a corrections deputy with 8 years experience inside of our jail, and a lot of knowledge of how the show operates. He often comes down here to South District Court to provide security and services to the courtroom. He does a lot of our transports and also a reserve deputy. So he puts his time forward to serve you guys all of the time. So next behind him, we have Deputy Jared Mortensen. So although a new addition to the team, he's also a corrections deputy, newly out of the academy and coming off of the training program that we have in the jail to serve you. His family also has ties to the community and a great addition to the team. Before this, he used to work in social work, and then before that at the youth camp. You know, the youth camp in Nacelle that the governor decided to shut down before deciding to try and build another one somewhere else. Sorry, side note. Behind him is Sergeant Pettit. He is one of two sergeants in our patrol division. He oversees the detectives unit. He oversees the internal affairs unit, of which we've created proper in our office, of which didn't exist prior to, and oversees the canines. So of that, he didn't say anything this time, but last time I was able to throw the joke, how do you know a canine officer when you meet one? He'll tell you. So next to him is Detective Corey Naknak. So real quick, Corey Naknak is one of the detectives in our detectives unit, of which, as a side note, is not a full-time detectives unit. It is done only through scheduling, which is unique to us. It is not something done normally anywhere else, but it is a necessity for us to be able to serve you, the people. Normal police operations and scheduling we cannot do and provide the service that we have been without gaps and holes more than we already have. So Detective Corey Naknak. Next to him is Detective Kevin Ackdahl. So the two of them, our detectives unit is slated with 3 positions, of which we don't have the staffing to fill the 3rd, but the 2 of them have been chipping away at all of the cases that we have pending to bring cases to a close. With this new setup, our responding to calls is equally as important as closing cases. The problem when you hear people complain about us not doing things, it's because there are so many cases. We cannot do them all at once, and so we had to list them out and chip away from the top and go down. So we are closing them out, and we're working our way down the list. So when we're applying attention to case over here, we're not applying attention to case over here. These are cases that are kind of, thank you for coming, beyond the scope of what a normal road deputy can do, not because of skill, but because of sheer time, to be able to stop off the road and collect evidence and set up interviews and bring in forensic interviews and all the things. In scheduling them time to detective through the week, it allows us to chip away through that case, of which I'll point out there have been 5 murders when I took this office, and we've closed them all out with good conclusions, and an 8-year-old case that we brought to a conclusion within 15 months of starting action. Although the conclusion is not what I'd liked, it was the best that we could do and provide closure to that family. So these guys are part of the team. I will point out that when a road deputy calls in sick, they have to pull that shift, which means that they cannot detective on those days. And then I will point out that when they have big cases and they are out of the area and doing all those things, the road deputies come together and they pull overtime to close down on any gap that they provide in the schedule. So it is a team effort. So next behind them, we have Jonathan Cole. He is one of our civil staff that has provided a huge coverage and a gap that we had prior to him onboarding. So he does our evidence. Our evidence in this office is far too much for how small we are. And so he's been chipping away at going through case after case after case, closing things out, providing all of the notices, getting rid of cars and evidence. And we recently had the bomb squad come and take a whole bunch of old live shells that have been found over the years, and deck cord that was expired, and all these things, all done due to his efforts being able to look at what we need and then just chip away. So he comes to us. He also used to work at the youth camp, and it's a huge blessing to have him on the team. So next to him, behind the 2 detectives, if you can see him, we have Reserve Deputy Tani Iwashibara. That he has been a reserve deputy from before my time, and when I took office, the undersheriff was a reserve deputy with him, and that's what I mean when I said it was kind of on life support. It was only them two when I took it, and then when I pulled him, it was just him. So we had to provide life back into the program to bolster it back up, and he hung on. He hung on with us. In fact, it cost him money to be here. We don't have money to pay our reserves, and so each time he comes down, he's from a place outside of our area. Probably nobody's heard of it. It's called Graham, and but he travels all the way out here to be a part of this team, and he too is a part of the search and rescue program and has all kinds of certifications that bolster what we have here. So I'm grateful to have him on board this team. And before you here is Chief Civil Deputy Holly Bellici.
Infamous Holly.
Yeah. So she's been working in this office almost 20 years. She even survived the infamous layoffs back in whatever year it was.
I was pregnant with my 13-year-old, so 13 years ago.
Yeah. So 13 years ago when this county had to lay people off. And she survived that and came back and has a wealth of knowledge. So the reason she is in this seat as the Chief Civil Deputy is the responsibilities that are placed on the sheriff are so great and vast. And a good portion of them are intricate and detailed live in the civil world. And that's the area that she brings to the table, covering down to ensure that everything is done so that we're able to provide a service out on the road. They're kind of the unsung heroes, the ones answering the phones, the ones doing the paperwork, the ones providing the paper services to the deputies, the ones that you guys may deal with on the phone or in person. They're part of the face of the office at the offices, and the work that they do is tremendous, extraordinary, and needed for this office. So, lastly, over here we have Sergeant Nicholas Zimmerman. So he's the other side of our patrol, and he oversees the training unit, the training cadre of which we created since I've taken office, the training program, so the field training officers. So when a new officer comes from the academy and goes out on the road, they go with a field training officer that has to go through training to learn how to teach a new road deputy the ropes, all the intricacies of the process. And he is a part of the training cadre. He is one of our snipers. I pray we never need it. But if we do, he is here. Thank you for coming. And he oversees the other half of patrol along Sergeant Pettit. And over in the door is Sarah Beamer. She's another awesome part of this team that works in the civil staff. When I first took the office, her position is paid out of the jail, yet she didn't do any jail work. So we moved to correct that. And so she does a lot of the paperwork side of the house for the jail operations. In addition, the pay processing. And if you didn't know, it's quite an undertaking to get all of these guys to process their pay in a timely manner, to get things to the auditor's office, to accounts payable, to get money in their banks. She's a tremendous part of the team, and we couldn't do these things without the job that she does, so I'm grateful to have her. Is there anybody else I'm missing? No? Okay. So between us, we live throughout the entire county. What I'm going to do here, to be as succinct as possible, and then allow time at the end for questions and answers or statements or comments. This is the way I have it laid out. I'm going to first speak to you about how this occurred and why we're here. Just as factually as possible. No, none of my opinion or anything, just as it occurred. After that, I'm going to, as accurately as I can, portray why they want to do this. When I do that, I'm going to list out the 4 reasons that were presented to us in the meeting. And then after that, I'm going to explain why it's not a good thing, the blind spot in the idea to move this, what wasn't thought about, and how it directly impacts you, the citizen, from preventing the sheriff's office from providing the service that we've been doing up to this point. It will retard the progress that we've made. So at the conclusion of that, I will do my best as quick as possible to give you a kind of update from day 1 at midnight 1 on January 1st, 2023, when I took this office, until today. After that, I will open the floor for questions and answers, comments, and concerns. So let me be clear. None of this is a call to action. What it is providing the people with as much information as humanly possible, as unemotional as possible, and what you do with that is on you. I believe that we should be operating openly and transparently. We serve you, not the other way around. So with that, let me start. On December 18th, 2024, so a few days ago, we had a meeting. The command staff had a meeting, what's called a workshop. A workshop is done, it's an open public meeting with the commissioners and the general administration of the county to discuss mainly something that's going to cost the county money, but an implementation of a new thing. It's a discussion, really, is what it is, and a presentation of facts and information. So we had also no decisions are ever made at a workshop. So let me be clear in that. So at that meeting, we were discussing options for medical provided within the jail. Why are we discussing options that are provided in the jail? Because we don't have an option at the moment. It is the hospital. Willapa Harbor Hospital is our only option at the jail for medical support for the inmates. This is a detriment to the county. It's a detriment to the inmates. When an individual is arrested, their rights are removed from them. And it is imperative, and it is our duty to protect them and provide for their welfare and their needs. That is a non-negotiable. That is how it goes. So it's regardless what they did or is accused of doing. We have to provide that. At this moment, our only option is the hospital, and that is not a good thing. Later on, I will discuss how we got to that point, but for now, it's just the facts. So we're in this meeting, and we brought to the table a presentation about a company called Ivy. This company provides in-facility medical coverage in correctional facilities in the Northwest. Primarily, they are in jails and correctional facilities in Idaho, and to my knowledge, there's 2 in Montana and 1 in Washington State on the east side. We are the second facility they're in talks with in Washington, and they're bringing a new product online. The new product is telehealth. That is not the best option, but it is an option. We have been scrambling for 2 years to try and find an option for medical in the jail. Things have been brought, things have been tried, things have failed or fallen apart, and we don't have an option. So we're bringing this all to the table. So in this meeting, this workshop, we were discussing this. We had a whole presentation and we gave it to them. And we had representatives from the company on Zoom. There were 2 additional citizens watching, and then those of us in the room. Those of us in the room were the command staff, the Sheriff's Office command staff, the County Administrative Officer, the 3 commissioners, and was HR Risk Pool there?
Yeah.
Department of Health and Risk.
And the HR and Risk Pool and the Department of Health. So we work closely with our Pacific County Department of Health for the purposes of re-entry, for inmates in the jail, for purposes of the mental health, the SUD, substance use disorder, all of those things. We work with our health department to be in the jail and provide those services. So we have our whole presentation. It's provided as an option, and we conclude the meeting. The 2 reps from the company, they get off. We're about to stand up and say our goodbyes, and the county administrative officer says, "Wait, hold on 1 second." After the 2 reps leave, the 2 citizens were left on, and he says, "I have one more thing for the sheriff's office and the commissioners." We said, "Okay," and he started talking. He said, "At the final and last official commissioners meeting on the 26th, I intend to present a resolution for approval and voting to create the Department of Corrections under Pacific County." As he was speaking, when I first realized what he was saying, my heart rate spiked, my blood started to pump, I was seeing red, my thumbs were fidgeting, and I was irritated. So the exact words of how he said it are a little bit gray to me. But before he stopped talking, I took a huge deep breath, and upon the conclusion of my breath, a calm came over me. And after he was done, I was able to articulate pretty calmly why I believe this to be a terrible decision and not in the best interest of the people of Pacific County. I had caught wind of this through the whispers in the grapevine about a week and a half prior. So I was prepared to speak to why it's not a good thing. I spoke my piece, and he said, Commander Parker, we're sorry, but going forward, your services will no longer be needed. HR, risk management, is going to be working on your severance package. And also, so you know, Sarah Beamer's position is going to need to stay with the jail because that's where she's funded. So, let me take a step back. Okay, so that occurred.
And it's the first. It's happening on the first.
And if this gets approved on December 26th, the swap will happen on January 1st. So, I knew or could not confirm that this was going to be done prior to December 18th. So, December 18th is when I was told by the county administrative officer. And on the 19th, after I had compiled all of my thoughts and was able to think clearly, I told you the people. So all of the hoopla of, Sheriff, why would you wait so long to tell us? It's because I didn't know until the 18th. And as soon as I did know, I told you. And then after that, we mobilized to put together all of these talks. All three commissioners got a personal invite from me to attend all and any of the talks. So that's not intended to throw them under the bus. I'm just telling you that I'm being as transparent as humanly possible. This is being live streamed on our face page. I think one of the community pages is streaming it. Yesterday, a community page streamed it, and I'm not hiding anything. So, going back to facts. Right now I'm going to do my best to articulate their reasonings why. When I say they, I mean the county administrative officer and the county risk manager.
Can you name names?
Sure. I mean, their names are floating all over, but it's not a secret. But his name is Paul Plackinger. And Marie Guernsey is the HR person. But let me point out, they are not the decision makers. The decision makers are the three commissioners. It's also not even me. Yeah. So their reasonings were four of them. The first one being the first death that occurred in the jail. This administration mishandled that death. Yep. That we allowed a deputy with pending criminal charges to still work in the jail, and that we intentionally postponed the review that is required by state law to hide something. So that was the first reason. The second reason was that the medical situation in the jail is unacceptable, and due to our mismanagement is occurring. I think the exact term that he said is your administration's administrative naivete. 3, Sheriff, you have over the last 2 years proven to us that you do not want risk management operating inside of your office. And 4th is this last death in the jail is conclusion enough that you guys are mismanaging those operations. So, in conclusion of those reasons, the county administrative officer and risk management conclude that Sheriff Garcia and his administration are putting the county government at huge risk of liability, and thus they need to oversee the jail. I will point out that there is an RCW that allows them to create a Department of Corrections. In the RCW, it says that a municipality or a county government has the authority to create a Department of Corrections, and if they do so, they will oversee it. So if Long Beach saw fit to reopen their own jail, they could, and they would oversee it. And after that, it states if they do not create that, then the sheriff will oversee the operations of confinement of the jail. So in this county, our jail has been oversawn, managed, and ran by the county sheriff. So, those were the reasons that were told to us. I present them to you. Their conclusion is to protect the county government from exposure to risk. They need to oversee it. So, I believe that I have, as clear as possible, articulated their point, without bias, without twist, without anything. That is as it was presented to us. So now I'm going to explain the full spectrum and the full scope of what they don't have, what they don't know, in all of those claims they've made about us. So the very first death that occurred in December of 22. There have been lots of rumblings online to confuse all of you and think that it occurred on my watch. It did not. We, however, had to deal with the aftermath of everything. And of that, we asked Thurston County to come in and do an internal investigation. And they obliged, and they helped us out. And they, start to finish, they did that investigation. Why, Sheriff, did you ask for them to come do it? Well, as I pointed out before, we now have an internal affairs division. At the time, we did not. So we brought them in, and they did this investigation. While this investigation was being done, it took a long time. It was very thorough. It was very complete. While it was being done, they came to us and they said, what is happening with the deputy that was working that night? Oh, by the way, there was only one deputy working that night that she died. And, well, she was placed on administrative leave, which is common practice, so an investigation can start. And also, side note, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. So she was placed on administrative leave, and we told him that, and he said, okay, well, maybe some things to consider. One, for the well-being of her mental health, you assign her some administrative tasks. This is a common practice that our office does and other offices to, one, you wring out some work out of the individual, and because you're paying them anyway, and two, it allows you guys to ensure that she doesn't have mental health issues and then go and commit suicide or anything like that. I am not saying that that's what she was going to do. I am saying that these were the potential risks and brought to our attention. So we took that information and we turned to our county prosecutor to present this as an idea and get his input. Why, Sheriff, did you ask the county prosecutor? I asked the county prosecutor because the county prosecutor is my legal representation. So he spoke to us and said, well, I mean, if, like you stated, she would be supervised and had no interaction with the inmates and stayed in the control room, then I see no issue with it. We then turned to the union and we asked, hey, this is our idea. What do you guys think? The union representation. They are with the Teamsters. And they came back and said, we're fine with it. Seems like actually a good thing for her mental health. So, with advisement of legal counsel and agreement of the deputies union, we brought her in. Why, Sheriff, did you bring her in? Well, come to find out, she was the only deputy that ran a couple of programs in the jail. Nobody else knew how to run them. So a program that's called commissary, it's a program and you got to learn how to functionally run it. And she was the one that did that for the jail. Before I took office, there were a lot of single points of failure. We've addressed all of those. So coming back to this, so now under a sergeant's supervision every single time in the control room, separate from any inmate ever, she came in and started training the other deputies how to do that job, and she did work. So she did that until the day when the Lewis County prosecutor filed criminal charges on her after the conclusion of investigations and all these things. On that day, I was working down south. I was down here. I was with the undersheriff. The undersheriff and I, frequently, we do other things than administrate because there's just simply not enough of us. So on that day, I was down here. In addition, I split my time, north and south, as best as I can, half and half. About half the time I'm down here in the south, the other half I'm up in the north. This is a big county. I see no other way to do it. So on that day, I was down here, and I had a missed call from the county administrator, Paul Blackinger. It was maybe 40 minutes from that call to when I recognized I had a missed call. I think it was Commander Parker came outside and told me he just got a call from the sergeants and said that they escorted that deputy off of the premises like a criminal. And in that moment, I was extremely perturbed that I was not notified. So I run to my phone and I'm about to call the county administrative officer. Oh, crap, he called me. So I call him back and he explains to me what he did. Upon not getting a hold of me, he called I think he called a couple other people, but again, the undersheriff and I were outside working. So upon not getting a hold of us, he contacted the jail sergeants and gave them an order to escort her off the premises because it is a risk of liability to the county having her in there. This put my sergeants in a very awkward place to take an order of somebody outside of the office. I communicated to the county administrative officer my extreme displeasure in his action, and he seemed confused. I told him, this is my responsibility. It should have been me to go up there, look her in her face, tell her what was going on, and escort her off. I do not abdicate any authority or responsibility. I operate honorably, ethically, morally, and within the bounds of the law. But that was a very, in my opinion, unhonorable thing to do. To kick that down to my sergeants. Hey, handle my light work over there. No, I don't like that at all. In me expressing my displeasure, I recognize that he took my words to tell him that he should not have acted in the interests of the county. That is not what I was saying. What I was saying is that you all put me in this place to do these things, and that my deputies do not take orders from him. And it was on my honor to have done something like that. So, but he missed all of those words, and what he heard is, I don't want you meddling in my jail. So I understand that because I don't remember my words exactly, but I think I was a little bit rough. So the review, it is RCW, that if a death occurs in the jail within so many days, it's like 100 and something, you must gather a review panel to look at all of the facts and the data and come to some semblance of conclusion of issuance of suggestion to change things so that it doesn't happen again. That is a good thing. There's nothing bad about that. That would have only helped me out. Going back in time, at that portion in my tenure, I was attempting to have a good relationship with our county government. If you recall, things were very contentious right from the start. I offended a lot of people by getting elected. I offended a lot of people by even putting myself on the slate, offering myself as an option. I pissed a lot of people off. So I was working to try and have a relationship. It was conveyed to us, this command staff, that it might be a good decision to approve an extension of this review committee until after the conclusion of the criminal case. This would then protect the county from liability in some form or fashion. What it does, I think the words we're talking about, the amount of zeros on the check. So, I obliged. In the RCW, it states that within so many days, 100 and something, you shall bring together this review panel unless an approved extension by the executive occurs. I am that executive, and I am the one who approved its extension. Looking back now, I wish that I would have pushed it through. It would have done nothing but benefit this administration and this office, thus you, the people. So the claim is made that I did that to hide something to protect this office. This didn't occur on my watch. This would not have protected anything about us. This would only have helped us. That is a ludicrous assertion. So I don't like it. That said, the second claim, the medical situation in the jail. The medical situation in the jail predates me by decades. I think many of you have seen the ramblings of a former jail employee. I agree with everything he says except for I'm stupid and shouldn't be here. Those aren't his exact words. I have summarized, but that's essentially what he's saying. But everything else he said, I agree with. What's that?
About me, so this about me.
Yeah, he said the same about him. I was trying to save his feelings, but the jail has been ignored for decades. I've been the only one open and honest about that. The only one. This administration has been the only administration to address everything that is egregious in there. The only ones. So the idea that I contributed to the medical situation falling apart is wrong. What I did do is things were brought to my attention and I looked into them on the provider that was there when I took office. So let me give you a quick snapshot of how things operated functionally when I took office. The jail staff, if something occurred with an inmate, had to text this provider regardless if they thought they needed to call 911 or not, they texted a provider. I think everybody recognizes that cell service in our county is not the best. So they then had to sit and wait for input, direction, or guidance. This too is not the best option. And without getting into a lot of detail, that relationship fizzled out because we looked into things, and an investigation ensued, and that provider no longer works in the jail. After that, we were left with no option but the hospital. Crap. So we started looking around. We found a husband and wife team, or they found us. I don't remember how it occurred, that are providers, and they choose to live in our county. They each have a huge list of certifications, and in my opinion, a very good thing to start talking with. So the nuance of these relationships. I do not do contracting, and I do not hold the purse strings. I have not been in the conversation in regard to securing jail medical. I was snuffed out. Looking back at it, I should have been very more assertive and applied myself into the conversations. Why, Sheriff, should you have been in those conversations? Well, because whatever's agreed upon to, I am bound to. I oversee the operations in the jail. Medical occurs within the jail. Although I do not give a medical provider any direction on what they can and can't do as far as the medical side of the house is, I do oversee the operations in the jail, and this is an operation that occurs within the jail. So I should have inserted myself a lot more, and I did not. Why, Sheriff, did you do not? Why, Sheriff, did you not? If in fact it is so important, like you're telling us. I only have so much bandwidth. I did not take over a functioning office, and from day one, I had to fact gather. And then once I had as much information as I could to start making decisions, we started to rebuild everything from the ground up. So you can't cast stones in a glass house, and this house was all glass. So we've been systematically removing the glass without breaking it and rebuilding a foundation from the ground up. We're not yet done building this house. But what I can say, as is present in the support behind me and the letters that these individuals wrote on their own accord, of which I did not ask nor force, and which puts them at great risk if this does occur. We now, 2 years later, have one team, of which, by the way, is my skill set and had 22 years to get to that point. We have one team, and I'm leading this team. So, the next situation with the jail, the county reached out to Grays Harbor County, of which has a bigger jail with more inmates and more deputies that work it and services a greater population. Reached out to them and spoke to that medical provider and asked her to come help us create a system in the jail. As I've been told, a medical service cannot be provided without an intact, functioning, good system, of which we did not have. So she came in and attempted to start to create that system. Mind you, we already had another nurse that was working through the health department to provide services within the jail. We ran into confliction, and the only time that I stepped in was to provide guidance that the final decision needed to be with the one nurse that came from Grays Harbor County, creating the whole system. Outside of that, I had no input, say, or control over either of their contracts or their communication with our general administration. Looking back, the lesson learned, I should have been more involved in those talks. Again, the fault being that I did not have the bandwidth, nor did I prioritize it high enough to insert myself into that. So that is my fault. The one nurse provided her letter of resignation, of which individuals are attempting to spin to say that that nurse was saying that this administration was derelict in our duties, or those aren't the exact words, but painting the picture, that it is our fault that what occurred between the two nurses was because of our action. I will posit that it could have been because of my inaction and my not being more involved in it. I would have liked to have known the issues real time so that I could have provided more guidance. But nonetheless, it occurred and a resignation ensued. Next, we have the other nurse that was in talks with the county for extension of her contract, and she was told by our general administration, the same individuals of which that want to take possession of the jail, told her, no, your contract ends on October 31st. We went to our county computer people, what do we call them, ITs? And had him search the email database, and we finally found the email on the third search, by the way, that finally found the email that proves what I just said. So I have that here before me. So this brings me to the next issue that was my fault. That, Sheriff, you do not want risk management within your office. That claim by itself is false. What I believe him to mean is that, Sheriff, you do not want our risk manager, Marie Guernsey, operating in your office. That is true. What we've done instead is we have created our own relationship direct with the county risk pools, of which I reached out to them and I spoke to them and I told them, this is what my county is attempting to do. What are your thoughts? He said, well, we don't get involved into local politics. And then I said, okay, well, for these reasons, and I laid them all out, of which I'm getting through today. I laid them all out. I said, for these reasons, I believe it not to be in the best interest of the people of the county. And I'm going to have to take this message to the people. He said, I agree with that. Other sheriffs have done the same, and that's a good idea. So on his blessing, I turned around to present this to the people. I also spoke with, let me take a step back. Part of that claim that I do not want risk management involved in my office is it's been printed in, I think it's the high school newspaper, the Chinook Observer. I should not have said that, but I did. So they printed in there that they were told, of which I believe they were told, but they were told that I denied the commissioner's offer to seek out my own legal counsel. I have my own legal counsel. I did seek it out. I didn't turn around and tell them, nor did I ask them to pay for it, of which was a part of their offer. I paid for it myself. But in this claim, and they printed it, I think that I'm going to turn around because I'm going to need them more and more and more. I'm going to have the county pay for it. My lawyer's name is Noel Treat. He, WASPIC, Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, helped me retain him. So he too agreed with me that you should take this message to the public. This attempt to take the jail from the sheriff has occurred 2 other times in recent history. Once in the 80s and once in the 90s. And I'm being told a 3rd time, probably before the 80s. So each time it has failed. Each time the sheriff took the message to the people. I'll talk more on that in a little bit. But sticking to the 4 reasons why they want to. Sheriff, you don't want risk management involved in your office. I have risk management involved in my office, but I also reached out to the risk pool and I ran this by them. I said, so I think that instead of creating an entire new department within the county government, incurring an enormous cost financially and a larger cost in regard to our operations to serve you, of which I'll talk to in a little bit, it would be more cost effective and allow us to keep the ground that we have gained if we simply hired a risk manager to work in the sheriff's office. Because their complaint is that the sheriff's office is the largest amount of risk that the county has out there. That is true. I don't deny that. What I'll point out, the jail is the larger part of that amount of risk. And that risk exists no matter who is in charge of it. Deaths occur in our Washington State Department of Corrections. Deaths occur in the federal corrections system. Deaths occur in the SCORE, the regional jails. Deaths occur in small town county jails. No matter what, these things happen. It is a tragedy. Yes, it is. We are addressing every single thing that needs addressing, and we are working our damnedest to fix it. I have met resistance at every single juncture and at every turn. So, Sheriff, you don't want risk management involved in your office. I spent 22 years in the military. I retired as a senior chief in the Navy. I've been on 9 deployments. I started these wars, some of which of my deployments have been in combat. I have mitigated and managed risk, life and death, with individuals' lives for a very long time. This is not new to me. Their drumbeat is that I don't know anything about anything. I was born in August of 22, and I don't know anything. I wasn't in law enforcement. That's a true statement, but all the rest is not. And finally, the last claim. This final death, Sheriff, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Because of your mismanagement, this individual died. The investigation is not done, so I can't get too in the weeds, but that is not true. I have been very open and honest with everybody here for a very long time that there are not enough of us to do the amount of work that exists in the county, period. I have been open and honest that the operations in the jail are very, very dangerous, and we have done a whole lot to mitigate the risk for the inmates and for the deputies, of which has been ignored for decades. Sheriff, you do not want risk management involved in your office. That is wrong. I don't want them involved in my office. Why don't I want them involved in my office? All of the articles in the paper are written in a manner that precludes that the sheriff is subordinate to the general administration or the county government or the county commissioners. That is not true. In civics, a county government is broken up of 3 equal but opposite, equal but separate the legislative branch, the judicial branch. I realized I was going the wrong way with my fingers. And the executive branch. The judicial branch is the courts. We're in one right now. This is the South District Court. Judge McAllister is the elected official that oversees and runs this court. She is separate of me. She takes no orders from me. She takes no orders from anybody else in the county government. She works for you. The North District Court is up in South Bend, and the Superior Court is up in South Bend. Same thing with them. That is the judicial branch. The legislative branch are the 3 commissioners. The 3 commissioners are also elected officials, and they answer to you. They oversee the budget of the county government, and they have a responsibility to fund all core functions of this county government. A responsibility. It is not a luxury. They're not doing me a favor in providing us $900,000 for us to fix the jail. They are doing you guys a service of providing $900,000 to fix the jail. And lastly, so they oversee the budget, and they also create policy for all departments that do not have an elected. All departments that do not have an elected. And then finally is the executive branch. All other elected officials are within the executive branch and perform executive functions, each of which controls their own policy in their own office. Of them, the sheriff, this has been construed every single time I've said it, but I'll continue to say it because it's an RCW and I didn't make it up. The sheriff is the chief executive officer and conservator of the peace. In that order. So, I am not saying that everybody in the executive branch works for the sheriff. That's not what I'm saying, but that is what's written. And that is how I operate. That is how I will continue to operate. And you guys are my boss. So, when I tell you things, I'm reporting to you. I report up. In the military, you give reports up. I share information laterally. I'm not sharing information with you. I'm reporting to you. I share information with the county commissioners and the other electeds and the other departments. I share information with them. I report to you. So, those are the 4 reasons that they provided to me, and that is the full story behind each one of those reasons. The papers print and people talk as if I lie to you. If anybody here believes me to be lying, you have the right to start a petition to remove me from office for misfeasance or malfeasance, whichever you find to be true. I am not lying. Neither are any one of my deputies or any person that works for this office. We work in a profession that our word is the most important thing. Period. It will not, does not serve us to lie. In fact, the exact opposite. It only harms. It only hurts. We work for you, and that is exhibited in our demeanor and our actions. We have created this office to be as effective as possible and serve the people. Those are the 2 questions that are asked in anything that we do. Does this or will this make us most effective? Does this or will this serve the people? Period. If it's a yes for both, we'll develop and get input and create a path forward. If one of those is a no, then we don't go forward with it. I believe these 2 answers in regard to this solution of creating the Department of Corrections does not answer either of those with a yes. Both of those are a no.
Yes.
So, I'm going to quickly get into the why. Why is this not a good thing? So, I'll start with the least important. The least important is it's going to cost more money than it currently does to operate this office. it would cost even less to hire a risk manager to operate within the sheriff's office. So, in a time right now where I'm told, Sheriff, money is finite and we don't have enough money to oblige your request for 2 additional patrol deputies and 2 additional corrections deputies, we don't have enough money. But in the same breath, tell me that we intend to remove control of the operations of the jail and place it under the county commissioners. So that is, in my opinion, the least strong argument.
And spend more money.
Yep. It will. It'll cost more money. So I'm going to read a letter which leads us into the other reasons. This is from the sheriff of Benton County, Sheriff Kroskry. He posted a reply on the letter that I posted on the 19th explaining this to you. He said, "This letter spells out exactly," referencing my letter, "what happened in Benton County when the Benton County Commissioners took the jail operations from the sheriff in 2019. We immediately had to dismantle our proactive gang team to support the courts for security and arrests. This change will have an immediate effect on a number of deputies available for other duties, and we had to pull resources from other areas that still have not been backfilled 5 years later." Lots of lessons learned here in Benton County. I hope those making the decisions look at the big picture. So, what is he talking about, Sheriff? He's talking about my corrections deputies hold a commission from me that gives them power and authority otherwise they would not have. It allows them to take somebody and arrest them, remanded into custody, ordered by an officer of the court, and transport them to where they need to go. If this jail is taken, they won't have that authority anymore. They will not have a commission from me. Going back to the cost, not to mention the uniforms will need to be changed and patches and a whole bunch of other little things. Again, I believe the cost to be the least strong of the arguments, but it is one. The more important is the functionality. The responsibility of providing security and being in the courtroom is on the sheriff by RCW. It's not placed on a jail or anyone else or any officer of the county. It is placed on this officer of the county, the chief executive officer of the county, the sheriff. So that responsibility retains in my court, my ball court. Thus, that will affect patrol. So on patrol, we've got Sergeant Pettit here that helps run the schedule. So at any given time, there are only 5 deputies through the whole day, each day, in general, that are available for patrol. Not at one time. This is overlapping shifts. So if you would speak to how this would hinder patrol.
So on a good day with the staffing that we currently have, given there's nobody on vacation, nobody calls out sick, nobody gone to training, we have a total of 5 deputies to cover the entire county for the entire 24-hour period. If this goes through, what that will immediately do is require a minimum of 2 to 3 deputies at least 3 days a week to backfill the void that correction staff currently fill by being able to do the court security and the transports for adult inmates and arrestees as well as juveniles. So what that means is that's going to create a minimum of 60 hours of patrol shifts that we will have to find a way to backfill at a time where currently this year we're already over 3,300 hours of overtime for our deputies for the year, already covering gaps that we currently have because we don't have enough people. It's completely unsustainable, and it's a disservice to you, and we've been asking for more so that we can serve you better and do more, and it has fallen on deaf ears. That is just the minimum impact it's going to have. I think Deputy Turner can maybe elaborate that there are days where it requires more people to do that, and we are required by statute to provide those services, so we will not have a choice but to pull those either from detectives, from the road, what have you. It may leave a day where you have 1 or 2 people to cover the entire county for a 24-hour period. It is completely unsustainable. So,
There are already days now, even with this entire team intact, that we have to ask the court, hey, I know you need us there. Do you really think that this individual is going to get out of hand? Well, no. Do you think that you're going to remand them into custody? Well, probably not. Okay. We'll be available if you need us, call, but we cannot be there. That's not a good answer. But it is all that we can do to continue to answer calls that exist out on the road and serve you. Everything that we do to operate is robbing Peter to pay Paul. Everything is a concession. The other ripple effects that were, I don't believe, thought of exist in the other aspects of how we serve. So there are currently 19 of us total to go out on the road and perform law enforcement. 19 of us total. That includes me, the undersheriff, the commander, and the chief criminal deputy. 19. There are only 13 deputies that we have manning the schedule. Everything else is backfilled by the command staff, of which didn't occur prior to me taking office. The commander oversees the jail, yeah, and their statement to him that we no longer need your services and here's a severance package hinders the operations in the office that were unforeseen by them. Maybe they don't know, or maybe they've had their eyes closed, that at times he has to run out to the road to back up a deputy. Maybe they don't know that he oversees the drug task force. Maybe they don't know that he has created from scratch the search and rescue team. Maybe they don't know that he oversees and runs and has brought back to life our reserve program. It is a huge detriment to everything that we've created up to this point. And it will take us many steps back. And we will not be able to, as pointed out by the sheriff of Benton County, 5 years later, he has still not backfilled all of those holes. Chief Criminal Deputy Weigart brought interesting things to mind as well. Since taking office and setting up this command staff, we have created a detectives unit, of which hadn't existed for a very long time. We have created a proper IA division. We have sustained a canine unit. We have,
Training cadre.
created a proper training cadre. And I'm missing some things, but you pointed out some an outlook of which is not thought of by them in order for us to be able, if this does occur, in order for us to be able to continue to man the road and support responding to calls. There's only a few ways that we can do it, and those ways are?
Yeah, we're basically gonna have to cut our canine. He's probably not gonna be able to recertify his dog. He's gonna go back to being a patrol deputy. We're working on, another thing he didn't mention is we're working on a traffic unit I know we get a lot of complaints about traffic, speeders in the area. We're working on building that up. We're working on building up a joint community engagement team where we pair with multiple social workers, the courts, a vast array of people to go out there and actually solve these problems in our community. That's gonna go away. We're not gonna be able to continue with that. The detectives that the sheriff just said knocked out these 5 homicides in our county. They're probably gonna have to get pulled back to patrol, which is devastating for this community. The sheriff has allowed us to come so far, and that's gonna send us back probably 5 steps. I mean, it's gonna really put us back. So it's a bummer. We're gonna have to have some serious talks if this does go through.
So in addition to all of those things for us to consider to even function and provide any semblance of security on the road. And in addition to losing Commander Parker, they intend to make me one less civil staff. They intend to take Sarah Beamer. What that means is that all of the work that she does outside of just the jail things will have to be put onto the rest of the civil staff. That is, we can, there is not enough of us to do the work that exists already. So, there are two more reasons why this is not good for you, the people. And in my personal opinion, Daniel speaking, these are the two most egregious. The direct transparency and accountability to you will be gone. Since I've taken office, by the way, I've promised very few things. I know a lot of people conflate things that I say as a promise. I've only promised a few things. One was to bring leadership to the office, 2, transparency, and 3, communication, and 4, to reestablish relationships where there have not been in the past. Those were my promises. I've made good on all of those promises. Albeit I've had to put some relationships on pause due to political headbutting, but other relationships have blossomed in their place. So, of those promises, I've worked very, very hard. The whole command staff has worked very, very hard to be as transparent as humanly possible of everything that we're doing, to be able to provide service to you with the limited staff that we have and resources available. We have been very unique in our structure and makeup to be able to meet the mark. And we still fail of meeting the mark. It's embarrassing to say that we still cannot serve you the way that you deserve to be served. But it is fact. So, if anybody has a problem, you can bring it to me. And I do one of two things. You bring it to me, and I look into it. And after I look into it, I either address it and work to correct the problem, or I get fact and I turn around and I explain to you the nuance of the detail of the fact of the situation that you brought to my attention. Thank you, sir, for coming. That would not be so if this is taken. There will be multiple layers of bureaucracy between the commissioner and the operations of the jail. There have been a number of instances where a family of an inmate has brought a situation to me. And I've done one of those two things. After looking into it, I have addressed it and worked to correct the situation, or 2, turned around and explained the nuance of the entirety of the situation. You will not have that if a director is placed in charge, regardless of how much experience that individual may have, or any claim of more effectiveness. In the work that the commander does in overseeing the jail, he's not alone. He has me to help. He has the undersheriff to help, and he has Chief Civil Deputy Holly Belici to help. That's 4 people they would be replacing with 1. I don't think that there's any individual that is as good as 4 complete. So, I've touched on why this is not a good thing. I've explained in my words and perspective from our whole staff of how this will directly affect you, the constituents, the people of the county, and why it's not a good thing. It will retard all of the momentum and strides we've gotten to get to this point right now. I present to you that Rome was not built in a day. I did not take over a functioning office. I had to rebuild from scratch, utilizing everybody on this team, all while trying to create a team, which is a difficult thing, by the way, if you've ever done it, and We are now 98% everybody on one page and marching in the same direction, and that direction is to serve all of you, the people. There is no decision made that is self-serving amongst any of us. My life would be extremely easier and probably smoother if I was not in this position. I believe that this was placed in front of me because I have a skill set and could do something about it. I have 4 sons. My greatest fear in this world is that they might grow up to not be good, hard, strong men. That is a legitimate fear in my heart. And I have to walk the walk in order to teach them the way. I iterate to them on a very frequent basis that you have to do the right thing all of the time, no matter what, even if no one's looking, and the hardest part of all, even if you're standing alone. We are often standing alone. I am often standing alone. I recognize that I have a lot of support of the people, but what I mean by that is politically, it seems that I'm standing alone. And for those reasons, I presented myself to you as an option to do this job. It is extremely unprecedented for this situation to occur. Yet I am here. You guys spoke. It is an extremely important thing. You guys are getting everything that I have to give. In fact, it's my relationship with the county, the people of the county, is like having a second wife. That is how much energy and emotion is given to this position for you. I've been in service to you, the people, my entire adult life. I've taken this oath for my entire adult life, now 24 years. 24 years I've taken an oath to this country. One of the most important things and very interesting things, important things that sets us apart from the rest of the world is that we take an oath not to a person, not to a government, not to anything else. We take an oath to a set of ideals. That set of ideals is what makes us a people. I've worked extremely hard to try and bring us together. Yeah, sometimes I say rough things, which then hurts people's feelings. Hurting someone's feelings is not my intent. But what I do point out is it matters not your skin color, matters not the food that you eat, matters not the music you listen to, although I listen to a wide range of things. It matters not where you come from. When you agree to be a United States of American, you agree to a set of values, of which I took an oath to. The Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of our state, of which outlines verbatim that the Constitution of the United States of America is the supreme law of the land. And it also protects your rights and your freedoms a lot. And then the laws of the state. I took an oath to these 3 things and I did it before God. That means a lot to me. The words that I speak in that oath are the most important thing that I can do. I affirmed it with my signature, but the words, the spoken words, were the oath, and that's what matters, and that's what I'm doing. I will continue operating this way for as long as you guys put me in this seat. So, I've given you an overview of what we've done since day 1 until now. It was not easy, and do you guys have anything?
Yeah. So I'm Corey. Like you said, I'm a detective. I feel great to I'm up on this podium. I get my applause this time.
You get a haircut, you get a blonde.
All right, Chief. It's your own year. So, like the sheriff, I've spent my whole adult life in service to this nation and us, the people. And I feel very strongly about civics. I grew up, maybe it was like as a kid watching Schoolhouse Rock, but I grew up, being taught about civics, and I think it's very important, the separation of powers between branches of government. That is one of the defining, within the Constitution, that's one of the things that defines America as America, right, is the separation of powers. It prevents any one branch from consolidating power. What we have here with the sheriff in charge of the jail, with the jail moving underneath the legislative branch, is, in my opinion, a violation of constitutional ideals of separation of powers. It is outlined in RCW. I'm not saying it's unconstitutional or unlawful or anything of that sort. But right now, if you don't like the way the jail is ran or you don't like the operations of the sheriff's office, you can initiate a recall on any elected official. That would include the sheriff. You can initiate a recall for misfeasance, malfeasance. So you can vote for a different candidate. If misfeasance and malfeasance is not present, you can wait till the next go around and vote for a candidate that you feel will advocate for you within county government.
Or we can do a recall.
or you can do a recall. Regardless, you have recourse. We have recourse as a people if he doesn't do his job in the jail and patrol. In my opinion, in 2022, when the election, was it 22? In 22, when the previous sheriff was voted out, I believe that was the people speaking, right? That was them seeking their recourse for it. I'm not stating a position on anything politically. What I'm saying is I believe that that was the people speaking. They felt neglected, they wanted to see change, and they exercised their right at the ballot box to effect that change as our system of government was designed. Should this move happen, it moves the jail at this proposal by Paul Plackinger, the administrative officer. He is proposing that it removes oversight of the jail from the sheriff's office, who again is the sheriff, who is directly accountable to us, the people, and places it under him, Paul Plackinger, to whom all the appointed officials report to, or the appointed directors report to. Does anyone here know who Paul Plackinger is?
No, we didn't elect him.
Some do. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not speaking to his character is what I'm getting at. I don't know him other than in professional encounters. What I do not like is that whatever director is appointed will report to him. He will then report to the Board of County Commissioners. It is inserting another layer of bureaucracy between us, the people, and accountability. And from what I have seen, it does not appear that accountability or transparency is a priority in the Board of County Commissioners with this move being sprung upon us at the last minute. And I would encourage everyone, regardless of your political position, regardless of whether or not you like how the sheriff's office is being ran, regardless of how you feel as a Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, or what have you, that it is a bad thing that we're inserting a layer of bureaucracy between us, the people, and the jail. And so I want to make sure that is, what was that?
We have to pay for it.
Yeah, I just want to say that piece because as an American, I feel very strongly about civics, and this is not the way, in my opinion, that we should be doing things.
Okay, you mind if I speak? So we have options as citizens. My name's Hugh Ogdentook. I live in Bay Center. I've been around here since 2016, 17. I worked with some of these guys at the Nixell Youth Camp. What I hear in the county is, for me as a citizen, people making decisions about money, things that's going on in this county behind closed doors is not right. We as a people deserve transparency like what the sheriff is doing for us right now. I'm gonna put, I'm gonna try to work on a recall. We have the right to recall these commissioners and put people in there that's gonna work. But I'm gonna need help to do that.
Would you please hold some of your thoughts? My name is Rita Hall. I'd like to talk with you personally on that issue, not openly, please.
Okay.
I am a precinct person, and I also part of the steering committee on the newly reorganized Pacific County Republican Party, so please,
Okay, yeah.
thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So if you wanna work on getting things right in this community, because we are the people and we matter, we elect these officials to do what we believe is right for us and our community.
Recall is a definite option.
So,
If you want to get a hold of me, I'd love help on this, when we're done.
all right, so real quick, I wanted to read before I go into the questions and answers, because that takes up a lot of time and goes back and forth. I wanted to read the letter that the corrections deputies had written. Is there anybody that had not read this letter? Okay, so there's people who have not read the letter, so I'm going to read it. To the citizens of Pacific County, the commissioners and chief administrative officer of Pacific County are planning on removing the Pacific County Jail and its corrections deputies from the sheriff's office and create a Department of Corrections. This letter is to inform you, the people, that we, the corrections deputies of the Pacific County Sheriff's Office, strongly oppose this separation from the sheriff's office. If this vote passes, we will feel drastically demoralized. The past 2 years under Sheriff Daniel Garcia and Commander Michael Parker have shown us all who they are as our supervisors and our leaders. They have done many great things for this jail, its staff, the inmates, and our citizens. They have provided us with superior training, equipment, and fought for more deputy positions within the jail and greatly improve our quality and safety and security to the inmates and staff, as well as improve our quality of service to the people of Pacific County. We have had many issues with the locks and doors in pods and cells for many years, and little to nothing had been done about it until the current Sheriff's Office administration took over in 2023. Some doors would not lock and others would not open, potentially trapping inmates inside their cells. When we brought all of the broken locks, doors, and other majority safety concerns to the attention of Commander Parker, Sheriff Garcia was able to start the process of securing a grant to partially offset the cost of the taxpayers who would have to pay for replacing those faulty items. The grant that Sheriff Garcia was able to obtain was in upwards of $450,000, which was a sizable expense that didn't fall on the taxpayers of Pacific County. The jail is currently in the middle of the repair process. Being removed from the sheriff's office will cost the taxpayers more money. The most we've ever seen a sheriff and his administration pay attention to the jail and its needs has been under Sheriff Daniel Garcia's command. During the previous administration, we were faced with an in-custody death. After that happened, jail staff came up with the idea of using medical alert bracelets that the inmates would wear that would monitor their vital signs in real time and alert us immediately if there were any changes to their vitals. The idea was presented to the county commissioners and the risk manager, and it fell on deaf ears. We never heard of the life-saving tools again. Another idea that Commander Parker has presented to the commissioners, chief administrative officer, and risk manager during a workshop meeting was a radar system in the jail in each of the inmates' pods or cells that would monitor their movement, pulse, respirations in real time. The radar system would measure movement from up to 33 feet away, respirations from 24 feet away, and pulse from 10 feet away. This monitor would be another risk mitigation and would greatly benefit the inmates, corrections deputies, and citizens. Once again, this idea has seemed to fall on deaf ears. Our inmates have also been neglected by the commissioners for their lack of obtaining adequate health care for our incarcerated population. It has been almost 2 years since the inmates had regular, consistent health care made available to them. Commander Mike Parker has been diligently working on possible solutions to the enormous risk of not having a medical provider for the jail. One potential solution he is exploring is a virtual clinic for the inmates. That's what I told you about. The virtual physician would be able to evaluate the inmates, prescribe medications, as well as work with our local pharmacies, mental health providers, hospitals, clinics, dentists, and optometrists to provide the necessary care for our inmates. The day-to-day operations of the jail, as well as the patrol division, will suffer greatly from this change if enacted. The corrections deputies will no longer be able to arrest defendants in court or those who are trying to turn themselves in. We will no longer be able to serve warrants, provide courtroom security in our 3 courtrooms across the county, transport juveniles to and from the juvenile detention facility up in Grays Harbor and Cowlitz counties, and carry out other functions. Per RCW, patrol deputies will have to be assigned these duties, which will in turn reduce the amount of deputies in the communities across the county to ever lower levels. If the jail is removed from the sheriff's office, this will in turn eliminate 1 fully certified law enforcement position, as well as 1 full-time clerk's position within the sheriff's office. We lack a confidence in the commissioners, chief administrative officer, and risk manager's ability to properly run the jail and mitigate risk and liability due to their past practices of ignoring corrective measures and needs of the jail. The jail is not a place to experiment with, especially when it is running smoothly, efficiently, and continuing to progress in the right direction. We believe Sheriff Garcia, Commander Parker, and the rest of the administration are taking the appropriate steps in the long journey to further better the Pacific County Jail, and we, the Pacific County Corrections Deputies, over the decades, the Pacific County Jail has previously been kept in the hands of the Sheriff's Office due to an extreme important decision-making process to keep our community safe. Very respectfully, the Pacific County Corrections Deputies. So, yeah. Okay. Let me let these guys talk, and then you guys on the floor.
Hi, Mike Parker. Good evening, and thank you all for coming. I'm going to start off on a little bit different note than some of our other speakers tonight. I want to publicly thank Paul Blackinger, Murray Guernsey, and everybody that was involved in bringing this idea forward to present to the county commissioners. I want to thank them. I'm a road cop. A lot of people would argue that I have no business being in charge of a jail.
And some have.
Sheriff Garcia, when he asked me if I would take over the operations of the jail, I was just a little bit apprehensive. I don't know anything about running a jail. As a patrol officer, I had a lot of frustrations with the jail for 10 years. Times I couldn't get people booked. Why? I got a righteous warrant here. I got a beautiful crime. Why can't I get this person into the jail? Oh yeah, you can bet. And up until the last couple of weeks, I never really admitted this to the corrections staff. But oh yeah, I had my ideas of how I was going to expand the population in there a little bit. When I first went up to the jail, there were times when I was booking people. I would see corrections deputies, 2 or 3 of them sitting down. Didn't look like they were doing anything that I could recognize as a functional task. And yep, those were things that I wanted to address. I had a lot of insecurities, I'll admit that. On day 1 when we went up to the jail, for anybody who doesn't know, Our administration tried to get into the sheriff's office prior to taking over. Sheriff Garcia and the undersheriff actually went in to try to interview some of the existing command staff to see if they were people that they wanted to retain. They were met by then undersheriff and basically told, get out, don't come back, not till it's your office. So we went there at 1 minute after midnight on January 1st. We looked around a little bit. We went up to the jail. There was one person working up there. It was midnight. There was one person working up in the jail. That individual was extremely ill. Not really, definitely not in the best spirits. And I had a flashback. 2017, I have a life-saving award in law enforcement. 2017, I was booking somebody. It was late at night. Normally in Long Beach, if you're arresting somebody, one person will do the probable cause statement and fax it up to the jail. The other person will do the transport. That night, for whatever reason, I was doing both by myself. I might have been backed up by a county deputy, whatever. So I was doing both that night. I ran up there, did the booking, and while I was writing on my probable cause statement, which normally I wouldn't be doing, I would have dropped them off and been on my way back to Long Beach, but I was writing up my probable cause statement. The corrections officer that was working at the time looked up and said, "Hey Parker, the guy you just brought up here is hanging himself." And I looked over at the screen. I was like, "Well, let's get in there and get this. Let's fix this." So I went in, picked him up. It was in pod 1. There were the pod was packed. There were a lot of people in there. I went in. Person was purple. I picked him up, took the stress off of the sheet that they had tied around themselves, while the corrections officer went back and she couldn't untie the knot, so she went and got some scissors, came back. I'm holding them the whole time. I looked over in the rest of the pod. There were some inmates pulling some blankets back, and I think I said a couple of really nice things to encourage them not to get up. They didn't. Corrections officer came back and cut them down, and problem was solved. I got a life saving for that. I don't bring that up to bring any credit on me. I'm trying to highlight that, recently we've been told that, these two deaths, never had deaths in the Pacific County Jail before. I mean, this is, the one in 2022 wasn't our fault, but my goodness, we just had another one. So things must be on a bad path that we've never seen before. Last night during one of our other town halls, a former corrections officer stood up and said, "No, there was actually a death when I was working." This isn't a new thing. When we went up that night, started taking inventory of the conditions of the facility, conditions of the equipment, training, staffing. Instead of going in there and making all the wonderful changes that I wanted to make, putting 300 people into a 60-bed facility, things like that. I started asking questions. I talked to each of the corrections deputies individually. What are the issues you see? What do you need? What do you need to be better? What does this place need to be better? Condition of the facility. I was told we had doors that didn't close. I could already see that we had alarms that went off every hour, indicating that we didn't know what the position of the doors were. Open, locked, closed, who knows? We had a lot of issues. I was shown our entire taser inventory. We had 3. I started looking around at all the taser cartridges. The most recent expiration date was 2017. Now the county wants to talk about liability, risk, very, very valid points. Do you think it would open up the county to any liability or risk if we tase somebody with a 5-year-old expired cartridge? Maybe a little. Well, there's that, or, there's lawsuits for almost any use of force these days, or potential lawsuits. So I started doing a lot of education, figuring out what was going on, what we needed to do better. Talked to WASPIC. Hey, these are some of the issues we have. WASPIC is the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, like you already mentioned. You guys have a lot more experience in this. This size of facility, these are some of the issues I'm facing. Can you give me any guidance on what my inmate population should be? Got a little bit. They're not supposed to be legal advisors. Yeah, we went out to our first range, and I think the newspaper that the sheriff alluded to a little bit ago, the Chinook Observer, did an article on the 80+% failure rate at our firearms qual in February of 2023. Okay, we have an issue if 80% of the people that are carrying firearms can't qualify with the firearms. Okay, so I went to them and I was like, hey, what can I do to help you guys? Do you need better equipment? Do you need more training? And almost to a person, every one of them said we need more trigger time. Okay, we can make that happen. Have a couple of older corrections deputies that I can sort of identify with on this note. Sometimes it's harder, it's getting harder, especially as the years go by, to see that front sight and the paver. I refuse to wear glasses, sorry. I can still qualify though. But it's a real thing, and there are tools out there that can help mitigate that, such as optics. You'll notice a lot of law enforcement officers are wearing optics on their pistols now. It helps. So we put a lot of time and training into the equipment, into the people. We put a lot of money into the equipment. When we went out to our range in 2024, we had one failure. That individual failed because he just had the optic installed on his pistol and he had never used it before. Once he spent about 10 seconds behind it and trained with it, he blew it out of the water. We had a 0% failure rate this year. When we came out to our September training a couple months ago, corrections out of the entire agency took the number 1, 2, and 3 spots in that training for firearms. That's just one aspect of it. These folks, they weren't getting defensive tactics training. I had a lot of folks in there that were wearing tourniquets that didn't know how to properly wear them. And if you didn't know, yes, there's a proper way to wear a tourniquet. If you pull it off and the Velcro covers over the windlass, you're not going to be able to apply it with one hand. And one day you may have to do that. They didn't have the training. So we've started providing all of these things that they haven't had for a long time. And feel free to correct me if I'm saying anything that you don't believe.
Right on the bar, boss.
So I spent a lot of time talking to the sergeants, and at first there was a lot of apprehension when we went into the jail. There were the rumors that I was going to fill it up. We were going to do warrant sweeps day one, and we were going to fill it to capacity. But instead of doing that, I sat down and talked to these folks, figured out what they needed, figured out what a safe staffing level would be, and taking that number in conjunction with what Waspic said, I came to the conclusion we can't put more than 35 people in this jail. I'm a road cop. I'm going to tell other road cops now we can't book people? Yeah, that's fun. Now, recently, there have been a lot of grumblings about, the number getting down into the 20s. We're doing construction. We're taking doors out of our jail, including an external door. While we're doing that, we have to take all the inmates and kind of crunch them down into one part of the jail while we move around. There are certain classes of inmates I can't put together. I can't put sex offenders in with violent offenders. Some people may find that entertaining. It's not. Again, I would argue that might open up the county to risk and liability. So we've had to lower the population down to a level that we could manage the jail. It's horrible. I hate saying no. Construction's going to be done in a couple weeks. We'll be able to open it back up to possibly 45. We're never going to be able to take it up to the maximum number of 59 or 60, and to do so would be unsafe with the staff levels we have. And talking to Waspic, I said, how many deputies do you think I would need for safe operations of the jail? I was told I can't give you an official answer because of legal reasons, blah blah blah, but the answer is 41. I have 15. That's again taken into account vacations, training, all that kind of stuff, people being out sick, whatever. But to safely run everything that we do, as far as court security, transports, hospital visits, everything that takes these folks out of the jail. A little bit ago I alluded to a couple of deputies sitting around and I couldn't figure out why. Well, one of the times I was up there, I saw 5 deputies. Right after I took over, I saw 5 deputies sitting in the control room. I was like, all right, here's my opportunity. I'm going to throw this in their face. I got a phone call from the courts. Nope, we need somebody over there in Superior. Oh, North District. Then there was a transport. Before you knew it, I had one person for the floor and one person manning the controls. Oh, okay, eye opener, thank you. There's an awful lot to it. I think we've come a hell of a long way.
Yes.
One other thing we're also doing now under this administration is all of our graveyard shifts and other shifts where we used to run single staff, we have a minimum of 2 to 3 deputies on each shift. That's big for us to mitigate risk, be able to respond to cells. Any emergency that happens in the jail, we're much more effective now than we were back in the past.
And that was something Sheriff Garcia changed on day one when he saw that there was one deputy working the night that we went in to take over. It's like, never again. Minimum two on every shift.
On that note, I'd point out also, so yes, we did that, but it also came at a cost. That cost is financial with overtime, and second, with their personal time. Again, we're strung out, and we're doing everything we can to make things right, but it comes at that cost. So, yeah, it's not the best solution, but it is the answer for what we have.
So to get back to why I started off this whole thing by wanting to publicly thank from the bottom of my heart Paul and everybody involved in this. Throughout this whole process, I have always questioned myself. Am I doing right by the corrections deputies? Am I doing right by the inmates? Am I doing right by the citizens of Pacific County by only being able to have a certain number of people in here? Am I doing right every time we have to turn somebody away because the charges aren't severe enough and I don't have the medical or whatever's necessary to get somebody in jail that me as a road cop, I want in jail. I get it. I want to thank them because everything I've heard from the corrections deputies over the last couple of days has been some of the most heartfelt and wonderful things that I've always been told that you could judge a leader by how his people feel about him. And right now I feel like on top of the world for everything that they've said. So thank you, Paul. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Now the next thing is I have to question the timing of all this. I know it's getting late and I'll be real quick. I'm finishing up. Like I said at the beginning of this, our training's coming along. We brought to them a real viable solution for the cameras that can't see into the pods. We've got that radar solution that can see in there.
Thank you guys for coming.
Medical and mental health, telehealth, we brought them a viable solution for that. And our jail construction is about to be done in about 2 weeks. I sincerely question the timing of now wanting to come in, now that all these things are up and on track, and taking it over. My biggest fear, and I've shared this with the sheriff and I've shared this with the corrections staff, I want to stay in this job as long as I can because I know it takes a long time for things to take root without somebody being able to come in right behind me and undoing it. These folks have come a hell of a long way in the last 2 years. They have achieved some amazing things. My greatest fear is that somebody's going to come in behind me and tear it all down. And they're going to be right back to where they were in 2022.
We're lucky to have you guys.
Okay, so right now I'm going to open the floor to questions, comments, and all that. And as we're going along, if I find a place that I've got things to point out of mistakes that I've made, and then kind of a correction of some other things that I've said. So as I was going along this whole thing, I'm going to do it as I saw your hands coming up. So first is over here, and then Phil, and then I think it was you, and then you. So, yes.
My wife and I are driving a 4-hour round trip to this meeting.
Oh, man. Thank you.
This is really important. I've been working on this since Thursday. You know what UCMJ is, right?
Yes, sir. Which
You have to obey every order.
yeah.
Not if it's unlawful.
Wait, what are you saying?
Lawful order.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There's something called nullification. There's people in this room can explain it better than I can. You have the power to tell them, no, I'm not relinquishing the jail. This is an illegal order. This is against the law.
Well, so the UCMJ is the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
There's an organization called National Liberty Alliance. they say on their website, sheriffs are responsible for operation of county jails, protecting inmates' rights. They have, there's two other organizations, Pacific Legal Foundation and First Liberty Institute. All three of these will do pro bono work. I'll bet you could scare the crud out of them by threatening a lawsuit.
Well,
This is against the law, they can't do this.
so, the deed is not done. I will certainly not stop the fight if it does get voted, but right now, I have not said to anybody that the commissioners agreed to this. What I've said is that the county administrative officer said that he's gonna submit this for voting. So, on December 26th,
After Christmas.
at 9 o'clock. Now that said, there's also 50 other items that have to be discussed and voted on that day, to include the budget for next year.
At 9
Yeah.
PM.
Yeah. So, they have to do the deed before I go forward, before I go ham. There's an opportunity for the right thing to be done, in my opinion. Certainly there's some that are out there that believe that it's just an administrative change. It should be done. But I don't believe that to be so. So I'm not saying this is a foregone conclusion. What I'm saying is that these are the facts as I know them. This is what I know it will do to the sheriff's office. And these are the other things that were unforeseen, not talked about, that I don't think they have a plan for. So, Phil?
Sheriff, staff, I want to thank you first for notifying us as your constituents. Without that, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have an idea of what's going on. And I'm trying to figure out what can be done in this short period of time to get it across to our commissioners, who I have my own opinions on how they function or not. But, I'll definitely be at the meeting.
Their office is open tomorrow.
Yeah, but they're not gonna be in it.
They also have email.
So,
They don't like talking to me.
right. But you are a constituent. So, this is not a call to action, and I'm not asking anybody to do anything. What I'm doing is providing you information. The options are you communicate with the commissioners. They're the ones that will vote. So that is what I'm doing.
So I suggest we show up tomorrow out there at their parking lot and say, hey,
Threaten to recall.
don't do that,
Or recall you.
don't do it, or,
I agree.
you make the bed you sleep in. So I'll be there at 9 o'clock if anybody wants to meet me there.
Okay.
I thought the meeting is.
So there's an RCW that states that they can.
Right, but if we're out there tomorrow morning.
State law. State
in the
law.
parking lot and telling them, hey, pay attention.
Okay. So, sir.
I had the pleasure of serving the Washington State Patrol for 20 years as a non-commissioned senior administrator. I reported to an assistant chief. I can't talk about the prison or the jail because the state of Washington has a Department of Corrections and all that's handled. The troopers don't get involved hardly at all in transporting prisoners other than upon apprehension. But I can talk about risk management. Under John Batiste, the chief of Washington, legendary chief of Washington State Patrol,
I know
the agency had a problem with the state's risk management division. And the problem that they had was that the state's risk management division didn't understand a thing about the difficulties of managing risk for a law enforcement agency. And Batiste, and my boss, made sure that that got rectified by bringing an experienced law enforcement risk manager into the agency. It's essential that you don't, well, I shouldn't put, I don't know this risk manager. If this risk manager doesn't have experience in law enforcement risk management, they probably can't help you very much.
So here's an application.
I just wanted to I wasn't the risk manager. So anyway, I think it's very, very important that that point be stressed by not only you, but people in this room, that the general administrator obviously doesn't know that either, or wouldn't have made a point of it to you that you don't want risk management in your agency. And hell no you don't, because they don't know what they're doing when it comes to a law enforcement agency.
Yeah. So I will be presenting that in the meeting, read into official record, that my proposal is that we hire one inside of the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
So I think that is a far better option and meets the intent of what they're telling me.
Sheriff, did you outline that you talked to county's risk pool about that?
Yep, I said that earlier, that the county's risk pool, of which whom we talk with, endorsed that idea. They think that is a good idea. They even said that I can turn around and tell the public that the county's risk pool endorses this idea. So, right here.
Well, I'm a little confused because they're firing Mike Parker,
Uh-huh.
and they're just gonna bring in some strangers from out of the county? I mean, who's gonna do the work that
Well-
Mike is doing and his staff?
So that's interesting. They told us today, the individual that they've chosen, his name is Jim Bird. Jim Bird. His brother was a lieutenant in the sheriff's office years ago. His nephew works for Raymond PD. He lives in Pacific County, and he works for Grace Harbor County. He is one of their friends.
But is he a jailer? Is he experienced?
He's experienced in jailing, yeah.
Richard's brother.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they've already tried to make their decision if they have this person lined up.
Well, again, this doesn't include the commissioners in this talk. This is the county administrative officer. So I'm not drawing that conclusion. That's you guys. So over here and then right here.
Sure. What I understand is what we can do as a collective group. The crime hasn't been committed yet. But what we can do is prevent the crime.
Yeah. Yes.
What can we do to stop what's going on? And a number of your deputies have told me that tar and feathering is out the window because somebody heard but chip seal is
Deferment, ask for a pause,
seriously,
you have to ask.
If we get on all of their email addresses are in the internet, if every one of us went out and got 5 or 10 people, just make a blanket letter. And what I did online is I stressed that we collectively voted him to run the sheriff's office. We didn't vote for this other clown to be there. No. We put our faith in him and his staff to protect us. Now, one of those people put on a vest, strap on a sidearm, and come out here to help us. These people responded.
I sent an email, amongst other people, sent an email to Amanda Bennett with the county and have your letter read into the record for the county meeting on the 26th.
Yep.
Today was the deadline.
But it's too late. You had to do
So-
it by today.
So you have to show up at the meeting, because if you miss
No.
the deadline, that's what it says in the,
Okay.
That's what
No, I
she said.
sent mine 2 days ago, so.
I still sent it anyway, late,
Yeah.
people were
Here and
sending it
then.
tonight, but.
At this point, apparently, yeah, you had
Oh,
to
wait.
send it in already for them to.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Recent events in the last 3 months, read in what I love to call the Chinook Inquirer. That a particular commissioner was pulled out, was booked for DUI.
She pulled herself over.
And we're expecting this person to have a chair vote regarding the sheriff's office.
Could you speak up a little bit? It's a little hard to hear at this end.
One of our current commissioners has a DUI. And recent.
And one of my deputies was the first on scene, which then held her there until the state patrol arrived, of which took over from that point.
This person making a decision?
Well, you notice
How
he
do
said
we
it
expect
first.
that person to vote fairly?
Correct.
When they're trying to be
The fire department.
Yes.
Pronouns here.
One, why would you not have the authority to hire and fire at your own discretion if it's your department? Why are they replacing you with someone else? And that doesn't mean a you as in that's bad, but
Well,
it doesn't seem like they're gonna save any money, so what is the point?
so that's one of the aces up my sleeves. I wasn't actually going to discuss that because that's going to be addressed if and when it occurs. But I'm not going to let them choose who goes. And in the other two organizations that were extracted from this office, the current director that was in charge of it stayed in that place. So this would be opposite past practice.
I'm gonna make a statement, and the nepotism, yes, but I'm also gonna make a statement. It seems like the county commissioner, and this is just my opinion, on just being at this meeting tonight and learning about this just a few days ago. It seems to me that the county commissioners are blocking you in each and every way that they possibly can.
Yes.
And I do not think that is okay under any circumstances.
Yeah, be elected.
Okay, and I'm not saying do anything bad or anything like that. What I'm saying is, it sounds like to me that they are out to get you. And I can't for the life of me, what benefits them from doing this? So.
We're passing notes.
And then the commissioners also took an oath to us because those
Well, obviously.
people elected them, right?
I'll clarify this a little bit, how they're justifying Mike Parker not being employed anymore. So in the RCW, it states that if the sheriff has a certain amount of employees, they equals a certain amount of appointments. So right now, with the corrections staff, we're over 21, I think it is, employees. That's 4 appointments in the command staff.
Okay.
When we go, if we were to have the corrections staff leave the sheriff's office, that puts us down under that number, making we only have 3 appointments.
Okay.
So then, that's why, that's the reason that they're saying we'd have 1 less.
But having one less, they're replacing him.
Well, we would have 1 less, then they would hire 1.
Oh, for the correction facility.
Right.
Oh, I see.
And then that would be
How
appointed
generous
by
they are.
whoever, by Paul or whoever,
Yeah.
for that department.
Okay.
So if it was extracted, one of my command staff would have to go. My point is they don't get to choose. That's my choice. So,
Does the union not have anything to do?
well, the command staff's not unionized. They are appointments, which is how I was able to put them in place from the prior ones that were in place.
I knew working for him was gonna be a risk.
So, yeah. Seriously, he took a huge leap. He almost told me no. So it was a big deal. And when I made these appointments from the prior command staff, one of them lost their job. And that hurt feelings and pissed people off. It is what leads me to the conclusion that this decision is vindictive and doesn't have your best interest in mind. So let me real quick, it was brought to my attention, I made a statement that the individual that they've chosen is a friend of theirs. I don't know that to be wholly factual. I can only infer and draw the conclusion based off of the knowledge that I do know. So I don't actually know that that individual is their friend. I do know that he's been sourced and was told today that that is their pick. When I say they, I mean the chief administrative officer of the county. So,
Yeah, I was just
What-
kind of curious about volunteers. I volunteered with the U.S. Coast Guard for 35 years, and they depended on volunteers. Does your system have any volunteers with young guys that want to be policemen?
we have the reserve program, and we're starting up the search and rescue. And on the back burner was the posse idea. The posse idea, the first time I said it, everybody was outraged. Oh, you're going to arm everybody and just take over the county. That is not what I meant by it. What I mean by it is our county is hit with natural disasters on a routine, frequent basis. And we lack the personnel to be able to go out and apply all of the necessary chopping trees down, removing off the road, all the clearing things out, all the things. And there are individuals and communities that go out and they do it on their own. So my idea was we deputize them, have them a part of the posse, and then when this occurs, I work with emergency management. We get a mission number from the state. I mobilize all of the posse to go out and do this work, and then on the back end, 1, you're covered by insurance. 2, you're a part of the team. 3, potentially, maybe I'd be able to get the gas you use in your chainsaw and your vehicle back paid. But
You do 80-year-old posses?
you're in luck. The cutoff's 81. But anyway, so we have a lot of plans. We just can't execute yet because functionally all of those take work. So anyway, yes?
If this vote passes and they decide to go ahead and remove the jail from your authority, what is your plan at that moment? Do you plan to turn over and give them the authority to step in and do their job, or will you put up a fight? And
So I am going to put up a fight. It's not to... it's to enlighten them. From the December 26th, I have until January 1st to show them all of the reasons that they didn't think of. There are the jail, if you are aware, you're very aware, that the RSO program is the responsibility of the sheriff. Currently, it's done utilizing the systems in the jail. That's something that will need to be retained in the sheriff's office. That we've got to figure that out. Again, the security in the courtrooms, that all needs to be addressed. The doozy to them is I cannot let him go. It'll be a different decision. It'll be a shuffle of things, and it'll change their perspective, and they'll probably fight that, which then will probably bring a lawsuit on my end. Like it's. They're not doing right. It was done behind closed doors. I have a fundamental problem with that, and I am going to address it. It will not make anything better. It will make everything worse. So if I lose all of that, then certainly my intent and my care is that everybody is served. I will do everything that I can to ensure that that jail works as smoothly as possible after I lose that fight. After all of the legal recourse is gone, then I will do everything I can to ensure that they're supported, most especially not taken advantage of or have recourse brought onto them for being so public about their disapproval of it, and make sure that it runs smoothly. So that's, to be transparent, that is my intent. So, yes, sir?
First, thank you, Sheriff, for bringing your case and your side of this argument to the people.
Yes.
I hope the folks on the other side have the similar courage of their convictions to take their case directly to the people, and I hope all of us in this room will be listening to that as well. It takes character to explain in a sincere way what you believe to be your opponent's best arguments.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
Yeah.
It takes character to acknowledge that you haven't been perfect and have had shortcomings and that everything wasn't perfect. That's character. And I want to acknowledge that character. I got a bunch of other good things to say about Mike Parker, and I'm in healthcare and mental health. I have watched Mike Parker respond to a very agitated person with a weapon. As the lead law enforcement officer in a complicated situation, and I watched him acting as one more therapist, except
We all knew he had the police skills if he needed them, but he was at the right distance, he was speaking the right words, he was calming the situation down. Mike, you'll be fine. You're needed everywhere. You mentioned a husband and wife healthcare team. I'm the husband piece of it. I am. I know what the county didn't hire because my malpractice insurance carrier said, if you sign that paperwork for the county and that ever comes to a lawsuit, you can kiss your coverage with us goodbye, because we, as your insurance carrier, won't give up our right to sue the county for their piece of anything that happens. We just won't do it. So we'll just drop the case and drop your coverage. No, I couldn't sign that contract. That doesn't make the county a bad place or to make them bad people. They may have had pressures on them, they may not have understood, but experienced people are not going to sign contracts with that technical stuff like waiver of subrogation in it. The risk pool, if they impose that condition, they're going to get newbies who don't understand what's important, why that's important.
Yeah.
Or they're going to get big corporations that are going to charge them quite a bit. And I don't know any big corporations of that sort who have any ties to the community in Pacific County. Which is not to say that I'm special. I'm not special. What's special is having systems of care that start with, okay, when somebody arrives, who's assessing the health pieces of their safety here? And then it goes on to, and who's thinking that through, and are the policies and procedures and training all in place? And all that has to happen before it even matters who you hired as your prescriber. So a lot of the technological solutions, they can supplement training, I love that. And they're not going to take the place of training. And this is something else, and I'm not saying anything here until I get to something more. I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to the county administrator as well. I'm not talking out of school here. The other thing that I've said consistently is that seeking national accreditation is the path to inmate safety, it's the path to staff safety, it's the path to legal safety, it's the path to avoiding all avoidable deaths and disabilities in a jail, where one of the signature questions in a jail is, now what? Really unexpected things happen. So accreditation with people who are national experts coming in and telling you honestly your strengths and weaknesses, your systems, policies, procedures, training, the whole works. That's going to be a whole lot more important than hiring a prescriber or hiring a telehealth company or hiring anybody else who doesn't understand how complicated these systems are.
So we have.
The other thing I think I got to say that I think is reliable is this stuff is really complicated. I'm pretty reasonably expert in the healthcare parts, and that's complicated enough. And then I understand some of the custody parts in broad terms, and they're complicated too. You can't do complicated, simple and quick. You got to do complicated, careful and patient. And everything I'm telling you, I'd be happy to tell the commissioners, whom I also respect enormously, and the administrative officer, whom I respect quite a bit. I'm happy to tell all of you, this is a way to safety for the whole people involved, for everyone involved. Systems, training, and accreditation. So I hope that this is done carefully, thoughtfully, and well. And I really thank you for understanding that all of us in public service report to the people and finding ways to make that transparent and meaningful. That's a big deal, and I want to honor that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm the wife part of the team.
Now
I'm a
that you've come back.
psychiatric nurse practitioner, family medical nurse practitioner.
You can barely be heard.
Yeah. And I'm also a
licensed registered nurse at the advanced practice level. Dr. Cundiff and I, Dr. Mary Ann Murray, are the only board-certified addiction specialists in not just the county, but in the region. Wow. Okay. I have spent 37 years working in addictions and in mental health. This is my favorite stuff to do because I get to work with the most creative people in the entire world, the universe. All of the people in the Pacific County Jail are our sons, our daughters, our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. They are all real people. Many of them are there because they have done stupid stuff while under the influence of drugs or with untreated or inadequately treated mental illness, sometimes both. You may have discovered in your lifetimes that our healthcare system is not a system, and it's not about healthcare, it's about money.
Yeah.
Thus, people end up in jail because they don't have access to the appropriate healthcare systems, and particularly mental health, that could relieve a lot of human suffering. Now, I'm the person who wrote the resignation letter that's being circulated in social media. And I'm standing here to tell you that is not properly used to defame this administration. And I am unhappy about that, because the issues that I cited in that letter are not under the control of Sheriff Garcia or Commander Parker. And I personally made an error in not taking my issues directly to them and following the chain of command. So I apologize publicly for that. And I trust you accept that apology.
You've got nothing to apologize for, Mary Ann.
So, as Dr. Cundiff said, healthcare needs to be a system. And in the jail, our sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, etc., their very lives are dependent on it. They are in vulnerable circumstances. I've been in that jail a bunch of times. I have experienced the jail deputies being very caring and concerned about the inmates, as well as the other staff members. I have not incurred anybody there who's sadistic about it, for which I am very grateful. It seems like the jail has been the bastard stepchild of Pacific County.
Always.
Inadequately funded, inadequately staffed, and while trying to do the Kmart version of custody, when something more is required ethically and, I mean, morally, it's got to be better. That can't be done with no funding at all. And we've heard in this meeting about what the staffing issues have been and funding for staffing. It's not going to be cheap. But what we've got now with hardworking people, it's not cheap and it's not safe in a whole bunch of respects. So as a people, we need to find a way to fund real services within the jail, safety for the deputies who all want to be able to go home at the end of their shift and be with their families. We want to be able to trust that when our brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, etc. are incarcerated in that jail, that they come home safely as well, and preferably hooked up with appropriate services in the community so they don't have to come back. It has been my privilege and pleasure to work with the jail mental health liaison to work out some plans for people so that they have appropriate services within the community. And sometimes that works great, and sometimes the judge just says, no way. But progress is being made. I need to say that. And I am hoping that we will continue on a forward trajectory, and I'm grateful for the team that's come together here. Please do not take that letter circulating as my damning this administration, because it is not that. It absolutely is not that. And the issues that I mentioned are things that are beyond the control of the people here in this room. Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you guys very much for speaking. Thank you, Marianne, for pointing that out. And I had mentioned that I wanted to clarify some things. So in my talk yesterday in South Bend, I had gone a little too in the weeds in my explanation of the issue that occurred between the providers. She was one of them, and it could be construed that I inferred that she was doing something unethical in her prescribing. That's not what I meant to say. I tried to point out that she has a huge heart and she genuinely cares about people and only wants to do the right thing. I outlined those things as I was explaining this, and so I apologize to her for my words and the way that it was said. So the second thing that I said was in regard to individuals that want to be extremely clear here. The individuals in the county of the small group of people that adamantly hate me for no good reason, in my assessment, live in they are doing something immoral, unethical, illegal, or just childish, or a mixture of the four. What a lot of people heard was that I said anybody who disagrees with me is one of those four things. That is not what I said. And that is not what I meant. So 100%, there are many people in this room that disagree with me on a lot of things. I do not think that every one of you is immoral, unethical, doing something illegal, or just childish. Everybody has the right to disagree with anything that I'm saying. What I'm saying is those that adamantly hate me and are doing everything that they can to try and make us look like we're doing a bad job, or most especially saying that I'm lying, I believe to be in one of those categories, or a mixture of them. And when you're doing the immoral and the unethical, oftentimes it leads to the illegal, of which at some point I'm going to find out. So that's what I meant. It didn't come off that way, and so that's what I wanted to correct here. And then back to a mistake that I had made. So when the second death occurred, it occurred in the jail. The second.
When, during your term?
Yeah. So it was the first death on my term in the jail, of which the investigation is still going on. It is concluding. When that occurred, we set our internal affairs division to work right away. So as soon as the coroners arrived, I sent a request to my internal affairs division to start the investigation. And then shortly after that, I did my post to you, the people, and then you guys started pouring information to us saying we want transparency and an outside agency. I heard what you guys said. So what I did is I called the sheriffs and I said, I need an outside organization to come in and do this investigation. They said, all right, right now, that responsibility is on Grays Harbor County. So in our region, we hand this responsibility amongst the sheriffs for response. And so then I called Sheriff Darren Wallace and I said, I had this death in my jail occur. I need an investigation done. He said, okay, the day that I called, which was October 31st, and I told him that I needed him, he said, okay, and he said, let me sort some things out amongst our own team. We have a couple of investigations going on that are high level, but then when we can, we will get down there and we will take it over. And I said, okay. And so again, I work for you. When I reported to you what we were doing, you didn't like it, so I stopped it, I changed course, and I asked them to come in. So in hindsight, it was a mistake for me to have us do it in our own team. The reason we were doing it in our own team is because we have a proper internal affairs division. And when something occurs, you have your internal affairs division look into it. But this is high level. I should have not done that. I should have asked for Grays Harbor County to start. That said, I corrected that course, so that is the mistake that I made. With that, all of that got turned over to Grays Harbor County when they arrived. and then they conducted their own investigation and went from there. They sent us a response saying, based on what I have looked at so far, I spoke with the sheriff and advised him that rather than spending the time to do the same steps again, I prefer to conduct a case review of what your team already completed. This would not be possible without the incredibly thorough job that was done prior to contacting our agency. The sheriff agreed, so I have shifted gears a bit and will be proceeding accordingly. So the work that was done of our internal affairs division was quite top-notch in regard to internal affairs investigations. So it's in addition to all of the camera footage and everything that they needed, and any follow-up interviews still occurred. All of that was all still done. But what I wanted to highlight there is that our team did a good job from a very experienced team. So I wanted to admit that it was a mistake for us to do that without the thought of you guys and transparency and wanting an outside agency to come in and look at everything being done. But I listened, and that's what we did. So with that, again, bottom line, in conclusion, this move is one, it was done kind of backdoor. It snuffed me out, and I don't believe it to be in your best interest. I've outlined the reasons why. I've told you what their position is as far as I know it, as clear and concise as I believe I could present it to you. And then I've expanded your knowledge in regard to each one of those issues as we've gone through it. If there are any other comments or inputs or questions? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I have one. First of all, the jury has met. And I think the verdict is not guilty. Additional comment. I was curious about what initiated this all of a sudden towards the end of the year. And I do know that, I read the papers, and one commissioner had an unfortunate experience involving the sheriff's department. And I was wondering if that could play any part in it. Now, one person raised the issue, and I looked up Washington Administrative Code on conflict of interest concerning commissioners, and this is important to everybody. Perceived conflict of interest at a board of committee meeting, any member of the board or committee who feels that she has no prohibited conflict of interest, but does have a personal or professional interest, which the public might construe in the particular situation, may either voluntarily recuse as identified above or disclose the interest to those present, and if there is no objection from anyone present, proceed to discuss and vote on the item. If there is an objection, the chair shall determine if recusal is necessary and appropriate. And what it's really saying is, if there is any suggestion and anybody feeling who's observing this that something doesn't smell right, then they have to recuse themselves. And if they have influenced other members of the commission, then the entire well may be poisoned. And it could be an illegal action based on that. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your
Your county commissioner material.
All right. Yes, sir?
Well, it's apparent that there's been a lot of shenanigans once again in county government. I think what we have here is a call to action. We need to show up at the meeting and demand some answers as the public, because I think a lot of times they act in a vacuum. It's kind of our fault, but this time it's too important to let slip by. So I will be there on the 26th. 26th, even if it's the day after Christmas, 9 a.m.
9 a.m. on the 26th. They're gonna have to change the venue because the room's too small. No, it's too small.
They might want to take and just delay the vote on this particular item until they can schedule a bigger room.
There you go. No,
They don't,
literally.
there's no reason why they should rush this.
So,
And I'm sure they're reviewing everything at their fingertips right now, I hope.
Oh, they're watching.
And they'll make the right decision.
so I hope so.
Email your commissioners, keep emailing them.
Call
So I've been as open and as humanly possible about all of this. Again, it's been live streamed a number of times now, and I believe that I've touched on every single thing that I can think to touch on and provide the reason of why it's not a good idea. At bare minimum, it warrants more time, more thought. As I pointed out, the one that was done in Spokane County took over a year to hand over, and then a short time later, they asked the next sheriff to take it back. A similar situation occurred in Multnomah County, and I know that's in Oregon, but still. And again, 2 years later in Clark County, after it was taken from the sheriff, things are still not smooth. It's currently being done in Klickitat County, and what I had heard from one of the office workers in the General Administration in our county, when somebody asked her, her response was, which I believe was fed to her, oh, there's many counties that are doing this. There are not. There are some. There are 39 counties in our state. Some of them were going down this road, and some of those found out that it was not a good idea. So, not a good thing, and we don't have the manpower, the money, or the people around to be able to do this. So that said, the address is 1216 Robert Bush Drive in South Bend at 9 a.m. on December 26th, and I thank you all for coming. I'm very grateful. I intend that our county government will become more open and transparent in everything that it does. That is the way that I think it should be done, and I'm certainly going to continue to operate this way. As I gain more bandwidth, I will become more open. Not that I'm intentionally holding anything, but it takes a lot of time to be on the face page, and I don't have that much bandwidth. It's why I don't respond to every comment. And when people like Sheriff Sanders, he grew up on his phone. I did not. It's not.
Could you read that address again?
It is 1216 Robert Bush Drive, South Bend, Washington.
Right on 101 on the right. Yeah.
It's right across from the Oyster Company, it's the old grocery store.
Oh, yeah, the old Safeway, it still looks like the.
You'll see them all.
Yeah. So.
Might want to mention Zoom.
Oh, so there is a Zoom option. You can go online. Now that being said, there have been 3 occasions that our Zoom in the county government has been hacked, and an individual has put porn on the screen, and because of that, they shut it down and they didn't turn it back on. So if you're counting on the Zoom option, you could lose it potentially, but it is an option. We have confirmed that. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for coming. All right, so if there's any other comments or questions, if not, going once, going twice. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for coming.